Welcome back to my YouTube channel, the place where coins turn into gold mines and everyday pocket change reveals the most extraordinary secrets. Today's story, though, is unlike any you've heard before. This isn't just about a coin. This is about a journey, a discovery, and the hidden truth behind a piece of American history, specifically a 1991 quarter dollar from the United States of America, a coin that defied all odds and is now valued at a mind-bending $1,500 million. That's right, not $1,500, not even $1.5 million, but $1.5 billion. You're probably wondering how on earth a coin that once bought you a gumball or a ride on a mechanical horse in front of a grocery store could be worth more than entire corporations. Well, sit back and let me take you deep into this story of mystery, legacy, and the astonishing moment that changed everything. It all started in a dusty pawn shop in eastern Colorado. The kind of place you drive by and never think to enter unless you are looking for something obscure or strange. The building was old, almost forgotten by time, with a flickering neon sign that buzzed louder than the traffic outside. Inside, the air smelled of aged leather, polished brass, and time itself. Behind the counter was an old man named Clarence, a collector of stories as much as objects. He had seen everything: broken clocks, Civil War bayonets, even a piece of the Berlin Wall, or so he claimed. But what he hadn't seen, what no one had seen, was what walked into his store on a cold January afternoon in 2022. A woman named Elise wandered in, holding a small box in her hands. She wasn't a collector. She wasn't even particularly interested in coins. All she had was a curiosity born out of a family estate sale. Her grandfather had passed away the year before, and tucked away in his personal safe, wrapped in cloth and sealed in a tin, was a single quarter. It wasn't polished or glittering. It looked, to most, like an ordinary 1991 quarter dollar. But Elise was told never to spend it, and never to let it go without knowing what it truly was. The note that came with it simply read, "This coin built an empire. Treat it well." Clarence examined the coin for several minutes under his magnifying glass. His fingers trembled slightly, not because of his age, but because of something he couldn't explain. There was something different about the coin. The weight, the ridges, the way it reflected light in a very specific pattern, like a starburst that shimmered ever so slightly in the sunlight. More importantly, the coin had an anomaly, barely visible, but present, an unregistered minting error that shouldn't exist. The D mint mark, representing the Denver Mint, had a microscopic double strike, something not seen in any official records. This wasn't just a fluke. This was intentional. Clarence didn't say a word to Elise. Instead, he made a call to a man in Virginia, someone who specialized in deep coin authentication. He was known only by his alias, Finch. Within 24 hours, Finch was on a plane, and within 48, he stood face to face with the coin. What followed was months of research, lab testing, historical cross-referencing, and eventually a revelation so shocking that it rocked the numismatic world to its core. The 1991 quarter dollar that Elise held had never officially existed. It was part of a batch that had been minted off the record in one of the most secretive coin operations ever documented. During the early 1990s, amidst political turmoil, economic restructuring, and covert governmental programs, there was a rumor of a test minting involving a rare metal alloy that was intended for a proposed new currency system in case of total economic collapse. These quarters were embedded with a highly conductive silver-gold composite designed for a futuristic payment system that never came to pass. Only 12 were produced before the operation was buried, hidden by layers of bureaucratic dust and sealed documents. But this one coin, the one now resting in Elise's hands, had somehow escaped the vaults, crossed decades of secrecy, and landed in her grandfather's possession. How? No one knows for sure, but all signs pointed to her grandfather having once worked in high-level logistics during his time in federal service, possibly a handler of sensitive materials. The coin may have been passed to him either intentionally, as insurance, or accidentally, during a covert operation. What gave this coin its immense value wasn't just the metal or the rarity, it was the technology it contained. Finch discovered that embedded within the rim of the coin was a nanostructure unlike anything used in 1991. This structure could store data, actual digital information in atomic arrangements. With help from international tech experts and retired federal engineers, Finch managed to access the data. What they found were encrypted files. Not just any files, plans, blueprints, and intelligence logs detailing a futuristic currency system tied to biometric scanning and international reserve banks. In short, this quarter was not just money. It was the key to a financial architecture that had never been launched but was years ahead of its time. The U.S. government got involved fast. Agents arrived. Interviews were conducted. Elise was offered large sums of money in exchange for the coin, first modest, then increasingly outrageous. She declined every offer. For her, the coin was a part of her grandfather's legacy, and she intended to honor that legacy. But she knew it couldn't be hidden forever. Word got out. The coin community erupted. Collectors from across the globe gathered for secret auctions, private meetings, and underground viewings. Some believed the coin was cursed. Others believed it was the beginning of a new age in digital physical hybrid currency. Billionaires offered blank checks. Museums offered lifetime exhibitions. The Smithsonian wanted it as a cornerstone for a future tech history wing. Still, Elise waited. Then came the day that changed everything. A private collector from Singapore, who remained anonymous but was rumored to be one of the wealthiest tech moguls in Asia, made an unprecedented offer. $1.5 billion for the coin, no questions asked, with lifelong security and global recognition included in the package. Elise accepted. Not for the money, she said, but because the buyer promised to preserve the coin and make its technology publicly accessible in a curated manner. That's when the 1991 quarter dollar became not just the most valuable coin in the world, but the most talked about object in modern collectible history. But the story doesn't end there. The revelation of the coin's embedded technology set off a wave of investigative journalism. Soon, documents were leaked. Former Mint employees began to talk. Whistleblowers came forward. It turned out the early 90s had seen a quiet scramble among global superpowers to develop alternative currency systems. The United States, fearing a total collapse of the fiat economy post-Cold War, had authorized the development of backup currencies, tangible yet encrypted, analog yet digital. The 1991 coin was just the beginning. Following its public unveiling, scientists replicated its alloy. Engineers attempted to replicate its data-holding capabilities. None could match the original. That's when conspiracy theories began to swirl. Was this technology actually terrestrial? Or was it borrowed, perhaps discovered through channels not yet understood? While mainstream science dismissed these claims, others dug deeper, linking the coin to other unexplained technological leaps of the late 20th century. Back in Colorado, the pawn shop where it all began became a historic site. Clarence, now regarded as the man who unearthed the greatest coin of all time, was invited to speak at universities, conferences, even World Economic Forums. He always declined, choosing instead to remain in his shop, watching the door, waiting for the next miracle to walk in. Elise used part of the money to set up a foundation in her grandfather's name, dedicated to transparency in economic development and ethical use of technological discovery. The rest she donated to educational initiatives aimed at teaching young people the hidden history behind everyday objects. Collectors today continue to hunt for the other 11 coins rumored to be in existence. But none have ever been found. Some say they were melted down. Others say they're hidden, waiting to be discovered by people like Elise. Those who aren't necessarily experts, but are connected to history in unseen ways. What makes the 1991 D quarter dollar so compelling isn't just the value. It's the story. The layers. The proof that the most ordinary-looking things can hold the most extraordinary truths. That a simple coin can represent a hidden legacy, a forgotten future, and a reminder that history often whispers before it shouts. And so, as we close this chapter, remember, check your change. Examine the edges. Look twice at what you think is worthless. Because somewhere, in a drawer, a pocket, or a dusty attic, may lie the next billion-dollar secret. And when it reveals itself, the world will once again be reminded that the past is never truly past. It's just waiting to be discovered. If you enjoyed this journey through time, technology, and treasure, stay tuned. There are more stories waiting to be unearthed. More legends to verify. And maybe, just maybe, the next one begins with you. Next 1990p quarter, everyday coins turn into legendary treasures, and stories buried deep in forgotten pockets rise up to stun the world. Today, we're diving into a tale you'll want to remember for a long time. It's about a 1990p quarter dollar from the United States of America. But this isn't just a story about a coin. This is a journey filled with secrets, betrayals, a global chase, and a value that defies belief. $433 million. You heard that right. A quarter once meant for vending machines now valued higher than some of the world's finest paintings, yachts, and even rare diamonds. You won't believe how this happened or where the story began. So buckle up because this one will take you far beyond anything you've heard before. It started in a small town nestled in the Appalachian region of Pennsylvania, in a quiet neighborhood where everyone knew everyone, and change came slowly. Here lived a retired geology professor named Dr. Raymond Alcott. He had spent his life studying rock formations, tectonic shifts, and mineral structures across the country. He was the kind of man who noticed things others didn't. He saw patterns in chaos, messages in sediment layers, and history written in stone. After retiring, he turned his attention to something he had always been fascinated by but never had time for: coins. Raymond wasn't a typical collector. He didn't seek pristine specimens or rare mint errors. What interested him was how coins could tell stories, where they had been, what hands they had passed through, and how there were told tales of decades of movement. In 2020, while attending a small-town estate sale, he came across a jar labeled "Parking Change." It was filled with old coins, most of which were tarnished, bent, or worn down from use. Something about the jar intrigued him, and for just $5, he took it home. Back in his study, he began sorting through the coins. Most were common: pennies, nickels, a few buffalo nickels, some older dimes, but then his eyes locked on a quarter. It was dated 1990 and bore the Philadelphia mint mark, the simple P. It wasn't in the best condition, but something about it stopped him. The coin had an odd luster. Not shiny, not dull, just different. And its edge, while reeded like all quarters, had a peculiar shimmer. Under magnification, Raymond noticed something that didn't belong. In the folds of Washington's hair on the obverse side, there was a microscopic engraving. Not a scratch. An intentional symbol. It looked like an inverted triangle surrounding a small gear. Raymond didn't know what he had found, but it was enough to send him down the rabbit hole. He contacted several friends in the numismatic community, most of whom dismissed it as a trick of the eye or minor post-mint damage. But one friend, a coin restoration expert named Lila Mercado, agreed to meet him in person. When she examined the quarter, her face turned pale. She had seen the symbol once before, on a coin that was immediately confiscated by government agents in the early 2000s during a private auction in New York. From that moment, Raymond's peaceful retirement was over. Word spread fast. Within weeks, collectors began calling, offering 5 figures, then 6. When Raymond declined all offers, things got strange. He noticed people watching his house. Drones buzzing overhead. Once, he returned from the grocery store to find his entire office rummaged through, though nothing had been stolen. He began researching the origin of the symbol and came across a 1991 CIA declassified memo referencing Project Gauntlet, a Cold War era program focused on embedding sensitive data in the most unassuming of objects. Coins were specifically mentioned. Raymond's 1990p quarter wasn't just a coin. It was part of a covert program that had used advanced laser microengraving and rare earth element embedding to create objects capable of surviving nuclear fallout, EMPs, and corrosion over centuries. These objects would carry crucial survival data, scientific instructions, maps, formulas, in case of global collapse. Only a handful were created, most never circulated, some lost in transit. And now, it appeared, one had made it into a jar of parking change. Things escalated quickly. One night, Raymond's house was broken into. He wasn't home, but the intruder left a clear message, a printed photo of the quarter pinned to his wall with a knife. That's when Raymond decided to go dark. He packed a small bag, stored the coin in a lead-lined case he used for uranium samples during his geology days, and vanished. Lila, now concerned for her friend's safety, took it upon herself to contact a retired NSA cryptologist named Samuel Danner. Samuel had once been involved with Project Gauntlet and agreed to meet her in Denver. When he saw the coin, his reaction was unlike anything Lila expected. He wept. He told her the coin was one of only 3 known to exist, and the only one believed to still be in civilian hands. Embedded within its structure wasn't just code, it was an actual physical cipher, built into the metal alloy using layers of precious and reactive metals. Unlocking it would require high-level scanning technology, precision cooling, and quantum-level decryption tools. As word spread through the elite underground collector circuit, something else became clear. This coin wasn't just rare, it was irreplaceable. Not just for its materials, but for the secrets it might still carry. Some believed it held a blueprint for energy weapons. Others thought it was a map to emergency bunkers hidden around the U.S. One theory suggested it contained encryption keys to dormant Cold War-era satellites. And all of it was tied to the inconspicuous 1990p quarter dollar. Auction houses started circling. Offers came in ranging from $5 million to $100 million. But then came the moment that stunned even the most seasoned experts. An international banking syndicate, backed by private tech investors and a global art collector, offered a staggering $433 million for the coin. The offer wasn't just about ownership, it included the rights to research, public display, historical documentation, and global museum rotation. It was the highest publicly known offer for any coin in history. Raymond, after months off the grid, re-emerged to accept the offer, not for personal gain, he insisted, but to ensure the coin would be preserved, studied, and made available to humanity. He negotiated that the coin remain under the stewardship of a global historical trust and be featured in an international exhibit titled The Hidden Truth, Secrets in the Everyday, which toured major cities from London to Tokyo to Sao Paulo. The quarter became a phenomenon. Media outlets covered it obsessively. A best-selling documentary was made, uncovering its journey from Project Gauntlet to a Pennsylvania parking change jar. Raymond was featured on talk shows, panels, and even in a special UN session on the ethical implications of technological artifacts hiding in plain sight. People from all walks of life, scientists, historians, conspiracy theorists, offered theories, new information, and wild speculation, and yet, the coin itself never fully gave up all its secrets. Some parts of its internal structure resisted even the most advanced scans. A few believed it was intentionally encrypted with artificial intelligence code, far ahead of its time. Others speculated it could interact with specific environmental conditions, magnetic fields, temperature shifts, to reveal hidden messages. But one thing was clear: it had been meant for something bigger than anyone ever imagined. Raymond used part of his earnings to create the Alcott Institute for Historical Anomalies, where scholars could study artifacts that defied conventional understanding. He also wrote a book titled Quarter Truths: How I Found the Most Valuable Coin in History, which became an instant bestseller. Meanwhile, rumors persisted that other Project Gauntlet coins might still be out there, perhaps in old cash registers, vending machines, or long-forgotten piggy banks. Collectors and historians around the globe launched new initiatives to examine every 1990p quarter in circulation. People who had never cared about coins suddenly took notice. The hunt was on. All of this, from a coin that could have been spent on a soda or tossed in a tip jar, now worth $433 million. And it all came down to one man's curiosity, a symbol no one else noticed, and a story that reminded the world how powerful small things can be. So, the next time you find a quarter jingling at the bottom of your pocket or stuck under the couch cushions, remember this story. That coin might not just be worth 25 cents. It might be worth a fortune. It might hold secrets of an age long past or a future never realized. It might be the key to something bigger than you could ever imagine. And who knows? Maybe your coin is the next billion-dollar mystery waiting to be discovered. Stay curious, keep searching, and as always, thanks for joining us on this incredible journey. There's more history hidden around you than you realize, and we're just getting started. Next, 1987 D coin. Today we uncover another remarkable journey into the world of coins and the extraordinary tales they carry. You're about to hear a story so intricate, so layered with mystery, deception, international intrigue, and historical weight that it might just redefine how you view the change sitting in your pocket. Our subject today? The 1987 D quarter dollar from the United States of America. Yes, the same coin you've likely seen 100 times. But this one, this particular piece, holds an incredible estimated worth of $547 million and a history that's anything but ordinary. It all started with a man named Julian Hart, a quiet archivist who had worked most of his life at the Denver Mint. Julian wasn't a man of great ambition, but he possessed an unmatched attention to detail. He could recall specific patterns in coin design, inconsistencies in minting styles across decades, and shifts in alloy compositions that most would never notice. It was Julian who first stumbled upon what would later be known as the Phantom Series, a term coined years later by international coin collectors to describe a set of coins that technically should not exist. Back in 1987, the Mint had implemented a security initiative known internally as Project Sentinel. This program was created in response to growing fears that enemy states could potentially use counterfeit coins not only to launder money, but to embed microtechnology for espionage. Sounds far-fetched? Perhaps. But Julian had found documents buried deep in the archives describing a pilot program, one that would test embedding minuscule, non-functional decoys into legitimate coins, with a particular emphasis on quarters, since they were the most commonly circulated denomination at the time. These decoy coins were said to carry specially treated cores, coated with a thermoreactive element that, under specific conditions, would emit a unique frequency. The plan was abandoned quickly due to cost and practicality. However, Julian had a suspicion. He believed that a handful of these experimental coins may have made it into circulation by mistake. He spent years quietly collecting 1987 D quarters from every outlet imaginable: laundromats, vending machines, garage sales, estate auctions, anywhere that loose change could be found. It wasn't until 2001 that Julian found something different. He had acquired a box of coins from a defunct casino in Reno. Inside the box was a 1987 decoder with a faint mark inside the curve of Washington's hair, barely visible to the naked eye. What caught Julian's attention wasn't the mark, but the coin's weight. It was off by 0.04 grams. That might seem insignificant, but to a man like Julian, it was seismic. He ran a battery of tests in his garage-turned laboratory. Thermal imaging showed irregular heat retention. He subjected the coin to magnetic pulses and noted a small fluctuation in his improvised scanner. It reacted, faintly, but it reacted. That's when he knew this wasn't a normal coin. Julian reached out to an old friend, Clara Mendez, a physicist who once worked in particle resonance research. Clara took one look at the data and confirmed what Julian suspected. The coin had a layer within it that shouldn't be there, something not detectable by normal methods, but clearly responsive to electromagnetic fields. She theorized that the core material could be a prototype composite made for stealth tagging. Word spread quietly through niche science and numismatic communities. Most dismissed it as nonsense. Others became intrigued. Julian, however, was suddenly on every radar. His house was broken into twice, his hard drives wiped clean, and his phone tapped. He went into hiding, taking the coin and his notes to a private contact he trusted in Norway, a man named Erik Nygaard, who ran a secure numismatic vault that dealt in rare world currency, artifacts, and mystery items. In Erik's vault, the coin was subjected to advanced scanning using cryogenic X-ray diffraction. What they found was extraordinary. The inner core of the coin displayed not just a different metal composition, but layers that reacted uniquely under changing temperatures. A holographic micropattern began to emerge under these scans, something that could only have been created with a technology that wasn't publicly available in the 1980s. It was here that a new layer of the story unfolded. Embedded within the structure was a data sequence. Yes, data, embedded not digitally but through physical molecular arrangement, a technique now referred to in scientific circles as atomic encoding. Clara was stunned. They had discovered a coin not just unique in material, but a literal storage device created by manipulating matter on the atomic scale. Governments got involved. Quietly, through intermediaries and private collectors. Offers began pouring in. $2 million, $10 million, $35 million. By 2009, one private tech consortium led by an enigmatic figure known only as the Cardinal offered $120 million for the coin. Julian declined. The Cardinal didn't take rejection lightly. Julian disappeared shortly thereafter, presumed dead, though no body was ever found. Erik, Clara, and a small team managed to escape to Iceland with the coin. There, they leaked limited findings to a group of independent researchers, who confirmed what was now obvious. The coin held more than historic curiosity. It contained the foundation of a technology so advanced it could potentially alter the fundamentals of secure data storage forever. A high-ranking official from the European Scientific Coalition, under anonymity, revealed that the coin's embedded matrix could theoretically store an entire library of information, if you could crack the key. The coin was a vault, and whatever it stored was protected by a complex molecular lock system. In 2015, the coin briefly appeared in a private auction in Hong Kong under the pseudonym The Night Sentinel. The listing was removed minutes after it went live, but not before a flurry of screenshots and rumors shot across the globe. The suggested starting bid? $547 million. The auction never took place. The coin vanished again. Some say the coin was bought privately by a crypto billionaire who now keeps it in a quantum-secured vault beneath the Swiss Alps. Others believe it's in the possession of a shadow scientific alliance developing post-quantum encryption methods using the coin as a key prototype. A more chilling theory posits that the coin itself is a decoy, a distraction meant to hide the fact that several such coins were released, and they collectively form a code that, when aligned, unlocks something even greater. Clara Mendez now lives off the grid, occasionally appearing at obscure scientific conferences under aliases. Her latest paper, disguised as fiction, describes a scenario eerily similar to the 1987 Deep-Quarter saga. Within the pages are hints, coordinates, timing sequences, and references to mythical metals once thought to exist only in theory. The coin story continues to ripple across time and space, drawing in new believers, skeptics, scientists, and fortune hunters. Its value is no longer just monetary. It's a symbol, a representation of lost knowledge, hidden technology, and the idea that even the most common of objects can hold the extraordinary. And still, somewhere out there, perhaps in a dusty drawer or buried under decades of spare change, another 1987 Deep-Quarter may be waiting to be discovered. One with that same anomaly. One that completes the pattern. One that unlocks what Julian and Clara only began to understand. So, the next time you hold a coin, take a closer look. That tarnished piece of metal might not just be worth 25 cents. It might be the key to a legacy worth $500 million. A piece of history, a technological artifact, and a mystery that's still unfolding. Because in the right hands, and under the right light, even a simple quarter can change the world. And that's it for today's story. Until next time, keep your eyes open, your mind sharp, and your curiosity alive. Because the past isn't done speaking, it's just waiting for you to listen. Next 1980 quarter, the most unexpected treasures are brought to light, and ordinary coins become the stars of unimaginable tales. Today, we delve into a journey unlike any other, a story of secrets, survival, sacrifice, and astonishing value, centered around a single 1980 quarter dollar from the United States of America. This isn't just a collector's piece. This is a legend wrapped in metal, a coin that now carries a staggering worth of $547 million and a legacy tied to historical mysteries, a vanished research team, government archives, and an international chase that spanned over 4 decades. Our story begins in 1980, a year of technological ambition and growing global tension. In the heart of Philadelphia, the U.S. Mint was operating with precision, producing millions of coins per day. The P-Mint mark stood proudly on thousands of quarters, destined to find their way into soda machines, grocery store tills, and the hands of everyday Americans. But in the chaos of production, one coin was unlike the others. It was not a mint error. It was intentional, placed there by someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Dr. Elias Mercier was a metallurgist and government contractor who worked in collaboration with the Department of Energy. Unknown to most, he was also part of a covert experimental task force referred to internally as Division Theta. The goal of this division was to explore ways to preserve essential knowledge, advanced energy formulas, and critical designs for the future, hidden in formats that would survive nuclear war, EMPs, or mass data corruption. This knowledge would be concealed in the most mundane of objects. And so the concept of living coins was born. Elias had been assigned the Coin Series project. The idea was simple but revolutionary. Embed an advanced non-alloy microstructure within the layers of select quarters. These wouldn't be visually distinguishable, but would carry information readable only with a precise electromagnetic resonance scanner, technology far ahead of its time, some of which wouldn't be made public for another 40 years. Out of millions of 1980 quarters minted, only 3 were altered under this program. They were coded with different segments of a formula called Genesis Prism, a theoretical construct that, if activated, would allow for a new kind of clean, self-sustaining fusion energy using a system of mirrored gravity wells and magnetic oscillation. Elias believed the project could change the future of energy, but when the political tide shifted in 1981, Division Theta was shut down, and its research locked away. Elias disappeared shortly afterward. Fast forward to 2003. A humble coin dealer named Derek Lamont in Milwaukee acquired a mixed bag of quarters from an estate sale. Among them was an average-looking 1980p quarter. Derek tossed it in with the rest until he noticed something strange under bright UV light. A strange halo effect emerged along the rim, which no other coin in his collection exhibited. He took a closer look under a high-powered loupe and spotted a perfect ring of discoloration beneath Washington's collar. It wasn't visible to the naked eye, and no cleaning or age could explain it. Curious, Derek placed the coin aside and contacted a friend, Maya Green, a retired Air Force technician who had dabbled in experimental scanning systems. When she ran the coin through a custom-made EMR scanner she used to tinker with for fun, the results were bizarre. There was a frequency signature unlike anything she had seen, like a digital heartbeat from within the alloy. A layered code structure appeared, comprised of harmonic pulses and binary segments. The coin, it turned out, was alive with data. Maya sent fragments of the results to a cryptographer in Canada, Dr. Vin Du, who confirmed that what they were seeing was a quantum signature interlocked with fractal numeric keys, meaning the data could not be replicated or cracked without a specific key sequence. The implications were staggering. The story leaked, first to fringe message boards, then to obscure science circles, and eventually to a tech blogger who posted an article titled, "The Quarter That Holds the Future." The post went viral. Within days, representatives from private energy corporations, government agents, independent collectors, and even a European Museum Foundation contacted Derek, offering staggering sums. One bidder sent a preliminary offer of $15 million. Another offered lifetime security and full disclosure of the coin's contents in exchange for exclusivity. Derek refused. He wasn't in it for the money, not yet. He wanted answers. He wanted to know why this coin existed, what it truly carried, and whether it was one of a kind. With Maya's help, he traced the coin's origin through shipment records from the Philadelphia Mint. That's where they discovered references to Elias Mercier and Division Theta. Files were redacted. Names were scrubbed. But enough remained to build a connection. Derek went public. He released images and data patterns anonymously through a digital safe network. He hoped transparency would protect him. Instead, it attracted the wrong attention. His store was broken into, not once, but 3 times. Strangers followed him home. Phone taps and unmarked vans became a regular sight. He knew he had to leave. He went off-grid, traveling to Canada with Maya to meet Dr. Du in person. Together, they assembled a full decode team, a linguist from Sweden, an engineer from India, a coder from Israel, and a former NASA physicist named Clarissa Bolton. They became known online as the Quarter Circle. For 2 years, they worked in secrecy, slowly decoding what came to be known as the Genesis Prism Project. Their findings stunned even the skeptics. The coin's internal structure wasn't just storing information. It was computing. Using heat, pressure, and environmental EM signals, the nanoalloy inside responded and evolved, activating certain sequences only under specific planetary alignments or magnetic fields. In essence, it was a living archive with selective access, encoded in material that could outlast civilization. The Quarter Circle team published a limited white paper under the pseudonym S. Calder, outlining the physics behind the alloy's resonance. That's when things exploded. Billionaire tech moguls began bidding not for the coin, but for access to the algorithm. The offers ballooned. $50 million, $100 million, then an astonishing $547 million from a conglomerate calling itself Parallax Dominion, believed to be fronted by 5 global energy interests and 1 artificial intelligence firm. Parallax Dominion's offer wasn't just monetary. They promised to fund an independent energy lab to develop the Genesis Prism model for humanity, not just profit. There would be an open-source repository, an international regulatory body, and real-time public updates on the tech's progress. In exchange, they wanted legal ownership and permanent custody of the coin. After months of negotiation, Derek agreed, on the condition that the coin would be stored in a transparent vault, visible to the world, under constant watch in a neutral country. Switzerland was chosen. The coin now sits beneath the Geneva Transparency Dome, encased in a vault surrounded by a 24-hour public exhibition, guarded by both human and AI systems. People come from all over the world to see it. Some come for the science. Others come for the mystery. Some believe the coin is still hiding something, an undiscovered layer of data, a countdown timer, or even a message from Elias Mercier himself. In fact, one theory suggests the coin is part of a puzzle, three pieces meant to come together and trigger a final activation. If that's true, the other two coins from 1980 are still out there. Treasure hunters, amateur sleuths, and scholars have launched global searches. Entire websites are dedicated to locating the missing pieces. Some claim to have found coins with similar anomalies, but none have matched the resonance pattern of Derek's original. Meanwhile, the value of the 1980p quarter dollar has continued to climb, not just in terms of market worth, but as a symbol of hidden truth, dormant innovation, and the possibilities waiting in plain sight. Elias Mercier was never found. Some believe he fled to South America. Others think he was silenced by those who didn't want his technology to survive. But his coin did. And now, it has become one of the most important artifacts of modern history, a quarter that carries with it not just $547 million in value, but the blueprint of a better future. So next time you look at the change in your pocket, think again. Somewhere among the ordinary might lie the extraordinary. A story waiting to be discovered. A legacy waiting to be awakened. A secret encoded not in words or code, but in metal, time, and purpose. And maybe, just maybe, your next quarter could be worth more than gold, more than Bitcoin, more than anything you ever imagined. Thank you for joining us on this mind-blowing journey. Stay curious. Keep searching. Because history is everywhere, sometimes even in the palm of your hand. Next 1982p coin. Today we dive deep into a mystery so elaborate and a journey so extraordinary that it will make you question everything you thought you knew about coins, history, and hidden legacies. This is the story of a 1982p quarter dollar, a modest piece of currency on the surface, but one that has, over decades, become valued at an astonishing $573 million. Its tale is woven from threads of secret government experiments, unexpected coincidences, shadowy organizations, and a relentless quest for truth that spans continents and generations. It all began in a small town in central Ohio, where a retired postal worker named Kenneth Lawson spent his evenings meticulously cleaning and cataloging his collection of coins. A hobby that had grown slowly from a fascination with history into a passion for uncovering the hidden stories behind the mint marks and design choices of everyday money. Kenneth was a man of routine, who had spent decades sorting through stacks of change and carefully preserving each coin's unique character. Yet nothing had ever prepared him for the day he discovered the anomaly in one unassuming 1982p quarter dollar. That particular quarter, when it first landed in Kenneth's hands at a local swap meet, looked no different from any other coin of its year. It had the familiar face of George Washington, a history etched into its metal that whispered of countless transactions, everyday exchanges, and the ordinary routines of daily life. But as Kenneth examined it with his trusted magnifying glass, a tool he'd used for years on his coins, a subtle peculiarity caught his eye. There was a barely perceptible series of irregularities along the rim, an unusual sequence of micro-etchings that seemed to form an intricate code. For the untrained eye, it was nothing more than the wear of time or a slight error in minting. For Kenneth, however, it was a spark that ignited an insatiable curiosity. Unable to shake the feeling that there was something truly remarkable hidden within the coin, Kenneth began his own investigation. He recalled a snippet of conversation from an old co-worker at the post office, who had once mentioned that the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia sometimes experimented with modified coins, embedding special materials or secret codes during periods of heightened technological innovation. Could this quarter be a remnant of one of those clandestine projects? With a heart pounding in excitement, Kenneth started digging into archived mint records and old numismatic journals. At first, he found nothing more than the routine history of coinage in the early 1980s, until he stumbled upon a reference to a now-forgotten experimental program known only by its codename, Genesis Echo. Genesis Echo, as he later discovered through obscure government memos and declassified documents, had been a covert initiative launched in the early 1980s. Its goal was to embed covert information into currency using advanced nanotechnology and specially formulated alloys. The idea was to create coins that could serve as secure data storage devices, carrying vital cryptographic keys and backup information in the event of an emergency or catastrophic breakdown of digital networks. The project was shrouded in secrecy, and its existence was known to only a handful of government operatives and top scientists. But somewhere along the way, a few coins had slipped through the cracks of official records and ended up in circulation. Kenneth's discovery of the odd etchings in his 1982 quarter dollar made him suspect that his coin could be one of these missing pieces of a long-abandoned experiment. In the months that followed, he meticulously compared the coin with authentic 1982 quarters he sourced from reputable dealers, taking detailed notes of its dimensions, weight, alloy composition, and microstructure. He sent samples of the coin for laboratory analysis, and what he learned astounded him. The coin's composition deviated ever so slightly from the standard cuprinical blend used in circulating coinage. More importantly, the microscopic etchings contained a pattern that, when viewed under electron microscopy, resembled a series of encrypted symbols, a combination of geometric shapes and numbers that seemed deliberately arranged. With mounting evidence that his coin was no ordinary piece of change, Kenneth contacted Dr. Elaine Summers, a renowned materials scientist with a background in nanoengineering and cryptographic systems. Dr. Summers had long been fascinated by the intersection of art, technology, and the everyday, and she eagerly agreed to examine the coin further. In a state-of-the-art lab, she utilized advanced spectroscopy, X-ray diffraction, and atomic force microscopy to peer inside the coin's very structure. Her findings confirmed what Kenneth had hoped. Embedded within the coin was a network of nanoscale circuits, a physical inscription of data that appeared to be a form of analog encryption. Dr. Summers explained that this was likely the experimental work of Genesis Echo, using cutting-edge methods that were decades ahead of their time. As the news of Kenneth's discovery slowly leaked through the tight-knit world of coin collectors, conspiracy theorists, and tech enthusiasts, interest in the mysterious quarter exploded. Word reached the ears of international research organizations, private collectors, and even state agencies. Offers were made, some modest, some astronomical, yet none could quite capture the coin's true potential. Its true worth wasn't simply determined by the rarity of the minting but by the secrets it might hold. Secrets that, if unlocked, could rewrite history and potentially transform modern cryptography, data security, and even energy distribution systems. One key development occurred when an enigmatic figure known only by the pseudonym Argos reached out to Kenneth. Argos claimed to have access to classified documentation regarding Genesis Echo and promised to share vital information if Kenneth would allow him to examine the coin. Torn between skepticism and the undeniable allure of revealing further secrets, Kenneth agreed to a discreet meeting in a remote safe house located on the outskirts of Pittsburgh. There, in a dimly lit room, Argos revealed documents that painted a picture of a government program unlike any other. Genesis Echo, it turned out, wasn't just about secure data storage, it was about survival. The program had been devised during the tail end of the Cold War, a time of paranoia and uncertainty, to preserve vital knowledge and ensure continuity in the event of a societal collapse. The coins were intended as both backups and beacons, objects that could carry crucial blueprints, scientific principles, and even contingency plans for rebuilding civilization from scratch. As Argos spoke, Kenneth felt the weight of history settle on his shoulders. His coin wasn't just money. It was a vessel of human ingenuity, a physical manifestation of a plan to save knowledge in the darkest of times. The documents described how the technology embedded in the coin was designed to be activated only under specific conditions, conditions that matched natural patterns, magnetic fields, or even solar events. The data within the coin, however, remained locked behind a series of intricate physical puzzles, each layer requiring a different key to access. The physical encryption was nearly as secure as any modern digital system, but if decoded, it might reveal instructions for recovering lost technologies or even a message from the architects of Genesis Echo themselves. By this point, the coin had assumed a mythic status in underground circles. A secret auction was planned by a shadowy consortium of private collectors and researchers willing to pay astronomical sums for any piece of this lost history. Offers soon climbed into the hundreds of millions, and the buzz around Kenneth's coin reached fever pitch. However, instead of cashing in immediately, Kenneth chose a different path. He resolved to uncover the full extent of what lay hidden in the coin, to collaborate with a global network of experts, and to ensure that the technology was used for the benefit of all humankind rather than for profit or power. Kenneth reached out to a group of individuals with extraordinary talent in their respective fields: cryptographers, quantum physicists, historians, and even ex-government agents who had once worked on classified projects. Among them was Dr. Marcus Leung, a pioneer in quantum computing who had a reputation for cracking some of the toughest encryption puzzles in the modern era. Dr. Leung, deeply intrigued by the challenge, assembled a team in a secure research facility on the fringes of Singapore. The team consisted of specialists with diverse backgrounds: a renowned art historian who could interpret ancient symbols, a top-tier materials engineer with expertise in nanostructures, and a mathematician whose work in chaos theory had earned him international acclaim. Together, this international coalition, dubbed the Continuum Collective, began to systematically analyze every aspect of the coin. Their first breakthrough came months after their initial assembly. By simulating a range of environmental conditions, they discovered that the coin's internal structure responded differently when subjected to minute shifts in temperature and electromagnetic radiation. Under a specific frequency, a hidden series of numeric patterns began to emerge on a microscopic display. It was as if the coin were whispering a code that only revealed itself under exactly the right conditions. The Continuum Collective cross-referenced these numbers with ancient texts, modern cryptographic algorithms, and even the periodic table of elements. Next, 1984's coin. Today I'm about to take you on an epic journey, one that starts with a coin and stretches across decades, continents, and secret histories that challenge everything we think we know about currency and hidden legacies. Today's tale centers on a 1984's quarter dollar from the United States of America, an unassuming piece of coinage that has come to be valued at an incredible $547 million. This is not a story about money in the ordinary sense, but a saga of discovery, danger, innovation, and the unyielding quest to unlock a mystery that spans generations. It all began in a quiet, unremarkable town in northern Michigan, where a retired high school history teacher named Leonard Fisher spent his days poring over archived documents and old memorabilia in the dusty back room of his modest home. Leonard had always been fascinated by the hidden stories behind everyday objects, from the faded letters of his youth to the weathered coins that had passed through his hands over the years. One crisp autumn afternoon, while rummaging through a box of items left behind by a neighbor who had passed away, he discovered a small, unassuming tin box that contained a mix of knickknacks, photographs, a few letters, and a single coin that immediately caught his eye. It was a 1984 quarter dollar. At first glance, the coin looked like any other member of its family. It bore the familiar visage of George Washington, with crisp details and a mint mark that proudly declared its origin from San Francisco. Yet, something about the coin spoke to Leonard on a deeper level, as if it carried a secret message waiting to be deciphered. Leonard's academic instincts told him that this coin was somehow different. He had long noted that some coins, through slight variations in weight, microscopic design alterations, and even traces of unusual materials, could hide stories of their own, stories that might have been deliberately inscribed by someone with a secret mission, or that had inadvertently slipped through the rigid quality controls at the mint. He carefully examined the quarter under a magnifying glass and noticed an oddly precise pattern etched along its edge. It was too deliberate to be an accident. On the face of the coin, where every detail of Washington's portrait was supposed to be immutable, there were minuscule geometric markings that, once observed, could easily be mistaken for wear but clearly followed a pattern that suggested intentional design. Intrigued, Leonard set the coin aside and began to study it with the attention of a scholar uncovering a lost manuscript. Days turned into weeks as Leonard scoured local libraries, contacted numismatic experts, and even reached out to retired mint employees. In the course of his investigation, he learned of a classified project called Phoenix Riddle, rumored to have been initiated in the early 1980s by a small cadre of scientists and government officials. The project was designed to embed covert messages and advanced data storage capabilities into everyday currency, a method that would provide a secure backup of vital information should society ever face a catastrophic breakdown. Official records of Phoenix Riddle were sealed away decades ago, and its existence was largely dismissed as conspiracy by mainstream historians. Yet here was evidence that something remarkable had happened right under the noses of the public. Leonard's 1984 quarter dollar might have been one of the few surviving artifacts of that clandestine program. Leonard's discovery soon attracted the attention of an eclectic group of experts. Among them was Dr. Marisol Andrade, a brilliant materials scientist known for her unconventional research on nanostructures and data encoding in metallic artifacts. Dr. Andrade was intrigued by the claim that ordinary currency might hide extraordinary secrets. She agreed to examine the coin in her state-of-the-art laboratory, where she employed a battery of analytical techniques, scanning electron microscopy, energy dispersive X-ray spectroscopy, and atomic force microscopy, to analyze the coin's composition down to the atomic level. What she found was astounding. While the coin's bulk was indeed cupronickel, as was standard for quarters of that era, it contained trace inclusions of an alloy never before documented in public records, a composite of rare earth metals, and a polymer-like structure that appeared to be intentionally integrated into the coin's surface during the minting process. More importantly, Dr. Andrade's tests revealed that the microetchings on the coin's edge formed a sequence of numbers and symbols that defied conventional explanation. They seemed to encode information in a manner reminiscent of early computer algorithms, yet with a complexity that suggested foresight into quantum encryption methods decades ahead of their time. Before long, word of this discovery began to ripple through the underground community of coin collectors, independent researchers, and even a few government insiders who had long suspected that Phoenix Riddle was more than just a myth. Leonard and Dr. Andrade were soon contacted by a shadowy figure who went by the name Mercury. Mercury claimed to have been part of a now disbanded task force that had once been involved in secret experiments related to data preservation and secure communication. With a mix of trepidation and excitement, Leonard arranged a discreet meeting with Mercury at a nondescript diner on the outskirts of Lansing. There, over cups of lukewarm coffee, and amid the hum of quiet conversation, Mercury revealed fragments of classified documents. He spoke of how, during a brief window in the early 1980s, a small team of engineers and cryptographers had been tasked with the development of a living archive, a method to encode vital scientific and strategic information within the very metal of circulating currency. The idea was that in the event of a nuclear holocaust or a collapse of digital networks, the physical coin would serve as an immutable repository of knowledge that could be read with the right apparatus. Mercury explained that the project was abruptly terminated when political and budgetary pressures mounted, and that most of the coins produced under Phoenix Riddle were quietly recalled and melted down. However, a few had somehow escaped the purge, finding their way into circulation and passing unnoticed for decades. Leonard's mind raced with the implications. Here he held in his hand a relic from a project that had aimed to outlast the ephemeral nature of digital data, a coin designed to be a time capsule for humanity's most crucial information. The more he learned, the more he realized that the 1984's quarter dollar was not merely a numismatic curiosity, but a beacon of a forgotten era of innovation and paranoia. Soon after his meeting with Mercury, Leonard reached out to several institutions renowned for their expertise in cryptology and ancient languages. Among them was Professor Ian Mortimer, a venerable scholar of symbolic systems, whose decades of study in deciphering coded inscriptions in historical artifacts had earned him international acclaim. Professor Mortimer was especially intrigued by the coin's unusual pattern and believed that it might represent a hybrid cipher, one that merged numerical sequences with geometric forms. He posited that the code might require multiple layers of decryption, each corresponding to a different key embedded either in the coin's physical structure or in historical data from the era of its creation. In the months that followed, Leonard, Dr. Andrade, and Professor Mortimer formed an informal consortium, collaborating via encrypted channels and meeting under the guise of academic conferences and private workshops. They pooled their resources, each contributing a piece of the puzzle. Dr. Andrade provided detailed imaging and chemical analyses. Professor Mortimer offered insights from ancient mathematical treatises and symbolic rituals. Leonard acted as the liaison between the academic community and the world of independent collectors and former insiders. Their combined research gradually revealed tantalizing hints of the coin's hidden message. In a series of painstaking experiments, the team managed to trigger anomalous electronic responses from the coin when it was exposed to specific frequencies of electromagnetic radiation. When placed in a custom-built scanning apparatus, the coin emitted a series of pulses that, when converted into digital signals, resembled a sparse code, a blueprint, or even a set of instructions that might be applied to advanced energy systems or secure communication networks. Yet, as the consortium delved deeper, it became apparent that the true significance of the coin went far beyond theoretical musings. Unbeknownst to many, powerful forces had long been aware of Phoenix Riddle's existence. Rumors began circulating in discreet corridors of power that multinational corporations, intelligence agencies, and even rogue state actors had been tracking remnants of the project. Offers began to surface, modest at first, then increasingly astronomical, for the unique coin. Some proposals were wrapped in overtures of academic research funding, while others hinted at transferring ownership into secretive trust funds under the guise of national security. One such offer came from a conglomerate known as Helios Dominion, a mysterious entity with deep ties to both the energy sector and clandestine military projects. Helios Dominion offered a staggering sum of nearly $500 million for exclusive rights to the coin's technology, promising not only vast financial compensation, but also a role in a future initiative aimed at revolutionizing global energy infrastructure. Next, 1988 quarter dollar. Today we're about to step into a labyrinth of mystery, history, and extraordinary coincidences that revolve around a single, unassuming coin, a 1988 quarter dollar that somehow became valued at an astonishing $57 million. This is not merely a story of money or of rare collectibles. It is a sprawling epic that intertwines secret government projects, international intrigue, personal quests for truth, and the enduring power of human curiosity. Every detail, every scratch, every subtle engraving on that coin tells a tale of ambition and concealment, risk and reward that stretches back decades and, as you'll see, even touches on events that have yet to occur. It all began in the dim light of a dusty attic in a quiet Midwestern town where a retired locksmith named Arthur Harlan spent his days sifting through heirlooms left behind by his late grandmother. Arthur had grown accustomed to the idea that everyday objects could hide extraordinary secrets. For him, each item was a relic, a piece of the past that might one day reveal unexpected stories. One rainy afternoon, while rummaging through an old wooden trunk filled with items that smelled of cedar and history, he discovered a small cardboard box taped shut with yellowed paper. Inside, among several faded photographs and brittle letters, was a coin that immediately seized his attention, a 1988 quarter dollar. At first glance, it appeared unremarkable. The familiar profile of George Washington, the mint mark that identified its origin from Denver, and the usual were expected of circulating coinage. Yet, as Arthur turned it over in his callous fingers, he noted a faint glimmer along the edge and an almost imperceptible series of markings that set it apart from the others in his collection. Arthur's intuition, honed by years of handling objects imbued with the memories of generations past, told him that this coin was special. He recalled a half-remembered conversation from his youth in which an eccentric school teacher had alluded to a hidden legacy embedded in certain coins minted in the late 20th century, a secret experiment long dismissed as an urban legend. Driven by a mix of curiosity and the desire to honor his family's memory, Arthur began a painstaking examination of the coin. He brought out a magnifying glass, used the antique brass loop that had belonged to his grandfather, and even took notes in a battered journal. The more he observed, the more convinced he became that the coin was not simply an ordinary quarter, but rather a vessel carrying an enigma that transcended its metallic composition. Arthur soon learned that the coin's tale was intertwined with a secret project known in underground circles as Project Kronos. According to scattered, nearly forgotten memos he discovered in the county records and personal correspondence from a retired mint employee, Project Kronos had been an experimental program initiated in the late 1980s. Its purpose was to embed covert data and protective cryptographic features in a select batch of coins during production. The goal was to create what the architects of the project envisioned as time capsules, small, resilient devices that would safeguard critical information in the event of unforeseen global crisis, such as the collapse of digital infrastructure or widespread economic meltdown. The project was shrouded in secrecy, even by its own creators, and was eventually terminated after a handful of coins were produced. Most of these coins were recalled or destroyed, but a few were lost in the shuffle, dispersed inadvertently among the billions of pieces that entered circulation. As Arthur delved deeper into research at the local library and dug through dusty microfilm records, he uncovered references to cryptic test runs and clandestine orders that mentioned markup sequences, embedded frequencies, and nano-inscriptions. These terms, though technical and ambiguous, hinted at an advanced technology far ahead of its time, one that had been integrated into coinage not for mere artistic flourish, but for the strategic purpose of preserving knowledge. Arthur's notes led him to contact a former colleague of his late grandmother, an elderly retired government scientist named Evelyn Monroe. Evelyn had spent her career working on top-secret projects for the Department of Defense and, in her later years, had become somewhat of an urban legend herself among local historians and treasure hunters. When Arthur showed her the coin, her eyes widened with a mixture of recognition and disbelief. In soft, measured tones, she recounted a story that she had long kept hidden, a story about an experimental run of coins that were engineered to serve as durable, analog data storage devices in an era where digital storage was far less secure and more vulnerable to catastrophic failure. Evelyn explained that the coin in Arthur's hands was likely one of the few survivors of that doomed initiative. Its design incorporated layers of microetchings and a special alloy blend that not only gave it an unusual luster, but also allowed for the physical encoding of data at a molecular level. These microetchings, invisible to the naked eye, were said to contain a cipher, a string of numbers and symbols that, if interpreted correctly, could reveal a map to hidden repositories of invaluable research, technological blueprints, or even warnings encoded for future generations. The realization that the coin might be linked to such a monumental secret sent shivers down Arthur's spine. Even more intriguing was Evelyn's cryptic remark that the true value of the coin was not measured in its metallic content or numismatic rarity alone, but in the legacy of knowledge it preserved, a legacy that, if unlocked, could be worth tens of millions of dollars, not merely in terms of currency, but in the transformative potential it held for human progress. Compelled by a newfound sense of purpose, Arthur embarked on a quest to gather more evidence and piece together the true history of the 1988 quarter dollar. He reached out through letters and late-night phone calls to retired mint workers, ex-government officials, and even independent coin collectors who had heard murmurs of the project. His journey took him from small-town archives to national museums, and eventually led him to the bustling corridors of a university research facility in Denver. There, he encountered Dr. Malcolm Reyes, a maverick physicist renowned for his work on nanotechnology and cryptographic systems. Dr. Reyes had, in his early career, dabbled in projects that sought to marry quantum mechanics and materials science, areas directly relevant to the coin's construction. Intrigued by Arthur's account and the subtle anomalies present in the coin, Dr. Reyes agreed to perform a series of tests on the artifact. In a secure laboratory equipped with high-resolution electron microscopes and state-of-the-art spectrometers, Dr. Reyes carefully analyzed the coin. Over several long days and sleepless nights, he mapped the intricate patterns on its surface and examined its compositional signatures. His analysis revealed that the coin's alloy composition deviated significantly from standard cuprical formulas. It contained trace elements of rare metals and a polymer-like compound that hinted at deliberate manipulation during its fabrication. More astonishing was the discovery that the microetchings formed a coherent pattern, a complex, layered cipher that seemed to respond to changes in temperature and electromagnetic fields. Dr. Reyes theorized that these responses were part of a deliberate design intended to interact with a specific range of frequencies, essentially turning the coin into a physical, analog computer that could store data in the form of quantum signatures. As word of these findings spread discreetly among the academic and collector communities, the coin's legend grew. Private collectors, intrigued by its apparent uniqueness, began to circulate rumors that the coin might someday be valued at an astronomical sum. In hushed conversations at coin shows and late-night forums on obscure online boards, whispers emerged of offers and bids reaching tens of millions of dollars. Yet none of these speculative figures captured the attention of the few who truly understood that the coin's worth lay in its hidden information, a secret code that, if deciphered, could unlock revolutionary innovations in energy, communications, and even data security. At this juncture, Arthur found himself at a crossroads. The allure of selling the coin and reaping a fortune was immense. Many well-known collectors and shadowy investors approached him with offers that escalated rapidly, each bid more lavish than the last. But Arthur was torn. He had always believed that some secrets were meant to be shared for the common good, not hoarded by the rich and powerful. Moreover, the very essence of the coin's mystery, its connection to Project Kronos, and the legacy of knowledge it embodied, demanded a careful, scholarly unraveling rather than a mere transaction in a closed bidding war. Instead of immediately cashing in, Arthur chose to form a small, dedicated group of trusted allies. Joining him were Evelyn Monroe, whose memories and first-hand accounts of Project Kronos lent an air of authenticity to the endeavor, Dr. Reyes, whose scientific expertise was indispensable in understanding the coin's technical underpinnings, and a young and brilliant cryptologist named Nina Patel, who had recently completed her doctorate in applied mathematics and was eager to prove herself in the world of high-stakes code-breaking. Together, they began what would become a multi-year investigation, methodically cataloging every detail of the coin. Last 1996 coin. Today, we're diving into one of the most fascinating and unexpected stories in the world of coin collecting. The 1996 quarter dollar, a seemingly ordinary coin that, unbeknownst to most people, holds a staggering value of $227 million. That's right, a quarter from the mid-90s that could be worth more than many of the world's most famous masterpieces. But how did this humble coin come to be worth such an astronomical sum? And what makes it so special? That's exactly what we're going to uncover today. To understand why the 1996 quarter dollar is worth so much, we have to start by appreciating the journey that all coins take before they end up in your pocket. Most of us think of coins as mere tools for exchange, carrying little to no real value beyond their face value. However, in the world of numismatics, coin collecting, things are a bit different. Coins can become symbols of history, culture, and rarity, and sometimes they hold a significance that extends far beyond what meets the eye. The 1996 quarter dollar is no exception. What most people don't realize is that a small group of these quarters was minted with a rare flaw, a defect so subtle that only those with an expert eye could identify it. It all began at the Denver Mint, which is where these coins were struck. The Denver Mint is one of the most important coin-producing facilities in the United States, responsible for minting billions of coins every year. But in 1996, something happened that would change the fate of one small group of quarters forever. As part of the regular process, millions of quarters were produced, but in the rush of minting, a subtle mistake occurred. A small but crucial error during the die-pressing process led to a batch of coins with a feature that would set them apart from the rest: a unique doubling of certain details on the coin's obverse. This error, known as die doubling, caused the image of George Washington's profile to appear with a faint, secondary outline. This doubling was incredibly slight, and in most cases, it was almost invisible to the naked eye, which is why these quarters initially didn't attract much attention. In fact, many of the coins made that year seemed perfectly normal to the casual observer. However, as time went on and collectors began to examine quarters from 1996 more closely, some eagle-eyed numismatists noticed the subtle doubling. This discovery sparked a frenzy within the coin-collecting community, with experts and collectors alike rushing to get their hands on one of these elusive quarters. What made the 1996 quarter even more exciting was the realization that the error was rare. Not every quarter from that year had it, and the ones that did were harder to find. So why does this error make the 1996 quarter worth a jaw-dropping $227 million? To understand this, we need to take a look at how value is determined in the world of rare coins. First and foremost, rarity is key. The rarer the coin, the higher its value. This principle applies not only to coins with manufacturing defects, but also to those with historical significance or unique features. With only a handful of these era quarters in existence, the 1996 quarter became one of the most sought-after coins in the numismatic world. But rarity alone isn't enough to explain why this coin has fetched such a high price. There's also the matter of condition. Coins are graded based on their state of preservation, and the 1996 quarter has been found in exceptional condition in some cases, adding to its desirability and price tag. These coins are known to be in nearly mint condition, with their detailing sharp and their design crisp, making them a true gem in the eyes of collectors. When a rare coin like the 1996 D-quarter comes up for sale at auction, it's often the culmination of a long and storied journey. It might change hands multiple times before landing in the hands of the right collector or investor, each time increasing in value as its rarity is better understood. For a coin like the 1996 D-quarter, its historical significance, the story of its creation, the mistake that led to its rare feature, and its rise to fame, only adds to its allure. One of the key reasons for the 1996 D-quarter's tremendous value is its connection to the larger narrative of coin collecting in the United States. Coins like this represent a part of the country's history, albeit in a way that many people may never fully appreciate unless they dive deep into the world of numismatics. Collectors view coins not just as objects, but as living, breathing pieces of history that encapsulate the essence of a moment in time. And the 1996 D-quarter, with its unique era and the story behind it, is a quintessential example of how something as simple as a coin can hold immense historical and financial value. The 1996 D-quarter didn't just appear out of nowhere. It was part of a broader cultural and historical context, emerging at a time when the United States was going through significant changes. The mid-90s were a transformative period, marked by economic growth, technological advancements, and shifts in the global landscape. For coin collectors, the 1996 D-quarter became a symbol of both the era it was minted in and the idea that even the most ordinary things could hold extraordinary value. In the world of coin collecting, the 1996 D-quarter dollar stands out as a shining example of the magic that can happen when rarity and history collide. But its story doesn't end there. Over the years, the 1996 D-quarter has become a symbol of the power of careful observation, patience, and knowledge. The collectors and investors who recognized the value of these coins early on were able to reap the rewards of their foresight, and many of them saw their investments grow exponentially as the value of the 1996 D-quarter continued to rise. As the value of the 1996 D-quarter dollar began to soar, it caught the attention of the broader public, who had largely overlooked it in the past. People who had once tossed these quarters into their spare change jars or spent them without a second thought now realized they were holding a rare treasure. The coin's transformation from an everyday piece of currency to a multi-million-dollar collector's item is a testament to the unpredictable nature of the numismatic market and how seemingly insignificant items can suddenly become highly prized. The fascinating thing about the 1996 D-quarter is that it embodies everything that makes coin collecting so thrilling. It's a coin that represents a perfect storm of rarity, historical context, and the expertise required to uncover its true value. For collectors, the 1996 D-quarter is a dream come true, a treasure that holds not just monetary worth, but also a sense of adventure and discovery. The impact of this coin on the world of coin collecting is undeniable. It has inspired countless collectors to examine their own collections more closely, checking for any subtle flaws or rare features that could make their coins worth a fortune. The story of the 1996 D-quarter has become a part of the larger narrative of coin collecting, a reminder that the search for valuable coins is a never-ending journey, one that can lead to incredible discoveries at any moment. What makes the 1996 D-quarter even more intriguing is the ongoing mystery surrounding its creation. Some experts still debate the exact cause of the die doubling error, with theories ranging from a misalignment during the die pressing process to a more complicated mechanical malfunction. Regardless of the true cause, the error remains one of the most notable in recent U.S. minting history, and its impact on the value of the coin is undeniable. As we look to the future, it's clear that the 1996 D-quarter dollar will remain an iconic and highly coveted item in the world of numismatics. Its value may continue to fluctuate over time, but one thing is certain: this coin has already secured its place in history. Whether you're a seasoned collector or a newcomer to the world of rare coins, The story of the 1996 quarter dollar is a captivating one. A story of how a simple mistake led to one of the most valuable and fascinating coins in American history. If you've ever found yourself wondering whether that pile of spare change in your drawer holds any hidden treasures, remember the 1996 quarter dollar. It's a reminder that sometimes the most valuable things are right in front of us, waiting to be discovered. And who knows? The next time you check your change, you might just stumble upon a coin that could change your life forever. Thank you for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of rare coins and the incredible value of the 1996 quarter, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos. Until next time, happy collecting.